Good evening. Welcome to the award-winning To Hull and Back podcast, proudly sponsored by Old Zoological Bar and Kingfisher Fish and Chips in Hull. I'm your host, Nathaniel, and tonight I'm joined by Joe and Christian to discuss pretty much the same as we were discussing last week. A very good home win at home to a relegation rival, a red card, and a draw away at a playoff chasing team. So, other than me being here, I assume we're basically just going to repeat the same sort of stuff we said last week, maybe focusing on a few different players. And of course, we're 2 games closer to staying up, fingers crossed. But, there's still a lot of games to go, really, considering the results elsewhere. So I'm doing pretty well. I'm quite happy about how the team are going at the moment. Joe and Christian, how are you tonight?
Hi, everybody, especially to Hull City fan in the chat who from 7 o'clock has been commenting hi. So I feel like it's only right we all say hi in return. So on the behalf of Nathaniel and Chris, hello.
Hi.
Yeah, good week. Good week.
Yeah, can't argue with it, can we? I mean, it's been a good March, if I'm being totally honest with you. And I think how we expected things to go, or hoped they would go, I think it's panned out pretty well so far. I mean, form-wise, if we're going off the month of March form-wise, I think we would be somewhere, like 5th or something in overall if we did that. So, yeah, we can't be too upset. So, yeah, hi, everybody. I think we're in a semi-pleasant and confused state because so far we're doing all right. We're doing all right.
March
I'm sure we'll find something to learn about. I'm sure. Good. Give me a few minutes, guys.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, Coxie says...
red card.
Yeah, we'll get on to that, definitely. Yeah, 1 loss in 7, 3 wins, 3 draws. We still can't pull away from the bottom 3. Never seen a season like this at the bottom because we have started... Well, we felt like we were starting to pull away, but then Oxford won yesterday, Stoke won in midweek, Cardiff won 2 out of 3, Luton have won 2 out of 4, and Derby, who looked absolutely dreadful, have now won 3 in a row. So I really hoped we could go into this week and think I'm going to the international break, especially, just all relaxed and all, we're nice and safe. We can look ahead to next season, but we're only 3 points above the bottom 3, which is why the point yesterday was so crucial. Steve says, Ruben Sayers is Black and Amber Army. Yeah, I think he's doing an incredible job. And, well, yes, I suppose we should launch into the Oxford game. As you mentioned, Puerta got sent off. Puerta, I was going to say he was man of the match. No, Joe Gelhardt was incredible. And, Ant isn't here. Every time Ant's going to be on, I'm going to be on. I should, from this point on, point out that he hated the idea of signing Gelhardt because mainly because he's from Leeds. But he's sort of taken that spot, given that, Pedro is now out. I think he's in that Oxford game especially sort of replaced the goal threat there. So how important was he against Oxford, Joe?
Oh, just unbelievable player is Joe Gelhardt. I was convinced from very early on, I came on here and said, get a contract out, put it on the table. And I said it week after week after week. I think at one point, Nathaniel, you pulled me up for doing it 3 weeks in a row. But my point still stands. And what a player, what a work ethic. He's got some great technical ability on the ball. And just touching on the sort of Oxford game more broadly, we don't need to talk about the first half, let's be quite frank, because that was an utterly dismal half of football from 2 teams who didn't want to give anything away.
Well, other than him, I'd say. He had some nice bright moments, but I've been saying it against Plymouth and Oxford. You can tell it's a basement battle because both teams, every time the ball goes out for a throw-in the opposition half, it's a long throw.
I don't know why we persisted with it, though, especially against Oxford, because Puerta's long throw isn't even that long.
It's fine, isn't it? It's like a 5, yeah.
And when they've got Michael Hellick at the back, who is enormous, and someone else, who was it alongside him, more right next to him, that was always going to be the outcome, because Matt Crooks, for his size and, you know, for the position he was in, he won very little in the air and he did very little in the game. Look, he's not a striker, yes, but I think it was the right thing to move him back into midfield, 100%. And that unlocked Joe Gelhardt. I think Kyle Joseph on the wing, I'm not convinced by him as a winger. I think the work ethic is there, but you can tell he's playing out of position. And even though he gives it a go, that issue does still shine brighter and is more prominent than anything else. Michael Hellick got his goal against us, yes, that always happens. But then the character to come back, you know, at the end of November, we go 1-0 down in a game, and that's that. If you think just sort of who did we play at the end of November? Sheff Wednesday was Tim Valter's last game.
Blackburn,
Middlesbrough, and then Blackburn early December before Ruben took charge. In those games and before now, you wouldn't expect this side to have the mentality to go on and bounce back. But so many times now we're doing it and we stick at it and we keep going. And that's testament to just what Ruben Sayers has done. He's taken a dressing room that was united only in the hatred of the manager who came before him to a dressing room that has a bit of togetherness, a bit of camaraderie, and will fight for the shirt, for the badge, for the club, but most importantly, for each other. And that will prove massive now they're building a bit of confidence, especially in these last 8 games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I think you bang on there, Joe, with everything you've just said. Look, there's a lot of things that I would like to... do you know what? I did say I might think of something, but I'm not going to bring it up this split second. I would rather us talk about the 2 games at hand first, and then bring it all up with regarding certain players, roles, positions, how we all feel about them and things like that. But let's look at the Oxford game. As we said, don't bother talking about the first half because even my lovely wife decided to slap me over the back of the head because I was screaming in rage that much over the sloppiness of the first half, and she told me to shut up.
Sloppy.
And it was frustrating to see because it felt going backwards a little bit with respect to how we were playing, and it just looked as you've worded it, both of you, 2 very nervy teams not wanting to overcommit to something, and it was just evident in that first half. So the second half, which was brilliant for me, was, I'm not saying conceding the goal was brilliant because it wasn't, but we were on top at that point, and to concede at that particular point, it was kind of like, no, what's going to happen? But the heads didn't drop at all. And Gelhardt, at the moment, we've got to sign the kid. We've got to sign him. I'm sorry. Look, I know people feel differently and blah, blah, this and blah, blah, that. He's very versatile in those attacking roles. Whether it be that number 10 that suits him down to a ground, which we said it would do, or anywhere in and around on the kind of the wings to kind of fill in and cover a job. Because let's be fair, guys, we haven't got the depth in those positions at the moment. I mean, we've got players who can play there, but we haven't got the depth. And Joe Gelhardt still covers that area. And I know we can all turn around and say, look, it's not his best position. I agree. It isn't. That number 10 is. We all agree on it. But I could happily say, oh yeah, Joe Gelhardt's out on the wing. You know, would you be concerned? No.
No.
You know you're not going to get the best game out of him because it's not his natural position.
He scored 3 goals, and each of them have been in a different position as well. Because I think he was up front against Oxford, so he can play anywhere.
He can play anywhere in that. And when you've got someone like you just said, he's only 22. He's only 22, and he's now finally getting regular first team championship football at a club that is, to be fair, we have quality players. So he's surrounded by quality players. And that this kind of break now, before we've said it in the past when there was a break under the manager that shall not be named, that they needed this time to kind of work things out and get it all right. Now, I do honestly believe this break might. I am afraid that it might break the momentum and let other teams kind of patch themselves up. But then again, it could work in the opposite way for
well, if it could
everybody
stop
else.
Derby's momentum, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, exactly.
They're scaring me at the moment.
Yeah, Harry, I can't agree more. I thought the fans were brilliant against Oxford. Gus for me, what a absolute just. I love Gus. I always have done. What a player! The thing is, he turns his man. If his back is to the opposition goal, he will turn the ball. And he will carry it up that pitch, and he will keep working and working. He'll either hunt it down if we haven't got it and play the high pressure. And those type of players are the players that we kind of missed at the beginning of the season. And I don't want to turn this into the Regan Slater slating kind of show or anything along those lines. I'm not. But that's what Gus does differently to Regan. He hunts them down. He turns his man a million times better and still kind of carries the ball up. And the through balls that he's been doing, we've had that one to Kamara, which was just
at Bristol.
Beautiful. At Bristol, that was beautiful. We've had his work ethic against Oxford, against that byline, where he had no right of actually skimming that guy on that byline, and let alone, I know it was given. How was that given as an own goal? In my opinion, it shouldn't have been. The keeper
on the list I've kept, I've broken the rules, my own rules, and I've given that to Puerta because that was such a nice bit of skill as well beforehand. It's like Philogene, last year against Rotherham. You got to give it to him because of the skill beforehand. So nice, yeah.
Exactly, and this is the one thing that I think a few of was it before? It was Gellart with his corner, wasn't it? Where they give it as an own goal. I'm sorry, but if you're shooting at the keeper and they try and stop it, but palm it in the goal still,
it's not a shot though. Really,
true, but Gus's was.
Absolutely
as well, and that's the thing about doing it with this one. So no, when it comes to Oxford game, it was more the mentality of kind of coming back into that of getting the second goal as well to kind of just clean it up. Really,
well, because the last few years at home and with the home form being that bad, even though we got the win against Plymouth and decent draw against Norwich, I think most fans at 70 minutes in when Oxford have scored, you just sort of your memories go back to all the home games before and all the draws under Rossini, and I never really thought that we were going to go on and win it. And I think psychologically, that's such a boost, especially.
I don't want to, preempt things, but I think if we beat Luton, we've got that monkey definitely off our backs.
I reckon with the 2 wins, I reckon with the 2 wins we almost do.
I've said for weeks that I would be more worried about the home form if we weren't playing well, which, we were against Norwich. We had great spells against Stoke. That first half was dominant.
QPR, we were all right. Yeah.
Leeds, QPR, You can point to different home games since Ruben Sayers has taken over. Even that first game against Watford when Chris Padilla scored with whatever body part he decided to use. But I just want to talk about the midfield more quickly because I think it's right we bring up Oscar Zambrano's Court of Arbitration for Sport hearing.
That's this week.
Yeah,
that was on Thursday. And the way these things work, you don't get the verdict there and then. So we are expecting it in the early part of this week, as per Baz Cooper's report earlier today. Now, on Wednesday, I had a conversation with one of Oscar Zambrano's representatives.
A bit of exclusive news here.
Look, it was a very, very long conversation, and he was at the training ground on Monday as well. He's also very close to Steven Alzate and Gustavo Puerta. He was in the club shop buying a load of stuff to take back to his family and just dumped it in Steven Alzate's car with the spare key. But this was the day before the hearing, and I was told the next month or so is crucial, which has turned into the next few days because the hearing was so soon. Oscar's well, Oscar's happy, and the general sense that I got, I'm not going to go into the full detail of the conversation that I had, but the general sense and the general feeling I got was that if the opportunity was there to make the move permanent from LDU Quito, Oscar Zambrano would jump at it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he would. There's more money here than in Ecuador.
Yes, Ecuador. And
yes.
Look, I think Oscar does want to stay. I think the club will work that out.
You can see what's happening with Camara and Puerta and Alzate and Hughes, players like that. Who's the other one? Gelhardt. I think, yeah, definitely he wants to be here next season with Sellés, what he's done with the young players.
1,000,000%. He likes the new manager. He's had a couple of conversations with Ruben Sellés, and he's quite encouraged by the performances, by watching the team, by speaking to the manager that he's done recently. So it's a case of watch this space, I think, and we will get that verdict from the Court of Arbitration for Sport in the early part of this week. But, next season, if we look, let's say, February time, Zambrano and Puerta possibly, Matazo back, Alzate,
Crooks, Palmer, and we'll talk about Casey Palmer because he was a massive factor in both of these two games that we're going to cover. Hence the title. And, then you've got Slater, who every manager trusts, has a lot of energy, and he's just had a difficult year with form. And then young players coming through like Nathan Tinsdale, who was on the bench. Harry Vaughan can play centrally. Well, they're not going to get a look in, considering the players we've got ahead of them. Bless them.
Exactly. They're not going to get a look in, though. And I think the midfield is somewhere that we can be really, really sort of encouraged by. And yeah, that's the little Zambrano update.
Nice.
Yeah. It's a nice thing, isn't it, to kind of look at for the future, I guess.
Equally, we're 3 points above the bottom three. So let's, it's really, next season is really exciting.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
But like that, we've had a 5 point cushion, I think, after the Plymouth and the Oxford wins both times. And you want to go into the next week and you keep that, especially going to the international break, and just kind of relax and enjoy it. But there's blooming other teams. The midweek fixtures, I think Derby beat Coventry. Portsmouth lost at home to Plymouth, and they'd had 80% possession. And then who did Luton beat? Luton won away at Cardiff after going 1-0 down. I thought they were going to all lose those games, and they all blooming won them. Stoke won that time as well against Blackburn, although I think Blackburn just looked like they've completely fallen off a cliff. So it's really annoying that I'm not as relaxed as I would like to be with the whole thing, but things are going in the right direction. The midfield next season could look really good. I think we've probably skirted around it a little bit much. So, of course, I wasn't here. Does anyone care to hear my thoughts on the Pedro red card before we get onto the Puerta one? I mean, it's a bit late for that now, isn't it?
I mean, the appeal's gone through, so it went a red card. Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah, I thought it was a red, based on the rules. But Puerta. So it's not like a disgusting, obvious Stonewall penalty, in my opinion. But
I agree.
Referees have to be more intelligent that well, firstly, I think Puerto doesn't really need to go to ground. If it's the last second of the match, he could just kick the ball at the keeper, lose the ball, and we're still going to win the game. But I think there's enough contact to say it's not a simulation. He's not.
It wasn't a simulation
contact because there was contact. No.
Yeah.
So for him to get, and even if you give, free kick, but for him to be booked for that in the last second of the game, because as a referee, it's a last second. Maybe that shouldn't impact your decision, but it just feels like the referee wants to get involved more so than they need to be. The best refereeing performances are the ones you don't notice, and you've clearly noticed him there. So yeah, I think it was very frustrating, but not the worst decision we've had against us recently, because referees.
It was one of those where I agree, the ref did not need to get involved as much, and if he was still not sure, then the ball went out of play. Just give the goal kick.
Yeah, it's the end of the game, isn't it? So just
exactly. At the end of the game, just carry on. There was no need to brandish a card out at all, because it was a foul. There was enough in it to give the penalty, and
you'd get that the other way, wouldn't you?
I was going to say, I guarantee if it was the other way around, they would have had that. So it's one of those where it really frustrates us, and I hate to be talking about like refs every game, but I do feel it's getting to the stage where obviously it's not just us, but I feel everybody that watches the home games, obviously you're always going to hate the ref a little bit, but I think they're all starting to notice a lot more inconsistencies from the referees and a lot more very poor decisions. And I just think sooner or later they're going to have to start being held accountable, or something's going to have to approach, because the standard has been absolutely abysmal this season, like absolutely abysmal. And I think this is one of the worst seasons I've witnessed for consistency of bad refereeing.
100%.
I can't think of a game this season where
it just gets worse and worse, doesn't it, every year?
Yeah, I can't actually recall a good game where I've gone, the refs had an all right game. I can't think of a game this season where I've actually thought, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've gone where I've not really thought about and gone, good and bad, 50-50. But I've never looked at it and gone, you had a good game. Because I used to look at refs quite often in that kind of light. But this season, it's just been abysmal.
I can think to when we played Burnley, when we went up in 2015-16, it was Mark Clattenburg refereeing. And, me and my dad and the people we were sat around were watching the way he was positioning himself and, doing certain things in the game. And we immediately sort of clocked, right, you could tell he's an elite referee, for the want of a better phrase. He gets a lot of flack, Mark Clattenburg, but you could tell that in the Championship, he was well above that usual standard of refereeing. And last season, I could point to, off the top of my head, three games. Rotherham at home, Rebecca Welsh. Huddersfield away, Rebecca Welsh. And Leeds away, Josh Smith. They're the only three. And I rate Josh Smith as a referee, but was he the referee against... It was a referee in one of the games where we got a red card. I think it was Bristol City, and he was poor. He was really poor. And this season, I can't think of a game where off the top of my head I can go, ref was all right there.
Yeah, that hasn't been one this season at all. And I agree with Harry, what he's just mentioned there. They're almost immune to any sort of criticism at all, because if anybody says anything on the sidelines even, there's an instant card for the manager.
Yeah.
So our referees now too protected.
Listen, I hate egg chasing, but we can take so much from them. Look,
100%. I'm jealous. As someone who hates rugby as it's an awful sport, the refereeing's wonderful.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I've only said that to annoy people in the comments. Please criticise me. That'd be lovely. But go on.
Just look at the Carabao Cup final today for Liverpool's late consolation goal, as it turned out to be. That VAR check took so long. Visually, you can see he's onside, but draw the lines on just to check. That should be a quick 5-10 second job. Why did it take so long? And then why did they go back and check something that was so obviously not a foul?
Yeah.
Why did that take so long? We got of 8 minutes added, we got 12 because of VAR.
Yep.
And you look at the way rugby do it. They put it on the big screen. The referee's allowed to speak to the players and explain his decision for everything he does. We saw a little bit with, I can't remember who the referee was in the final, but he explained on mic to the crowd, VAR check complete. Liverpool's number 14, Federico Chiesa, was onside, and thus the goal stands.
Which is pointless because we know that's why he's given the goal, because that's obvious to everybody. So why bother even explaining it at that point?
Yeah.
But in ones like for a red card, for example, let's take Zhao's red card against Bristol City, where that's a little bit more nuanced. If there was VAR and the referee could explain to the crowd and it could be heard on TV.
But what's he going to say? They're only going to hide behind the fact that he's going to say it's serious foul play, even though, well, yes, we know that those are it's handball, last man, 2 yellows, or serious foul play, and it's obviously the serious foul play one. So him saying it's serious foul play I don't really feel like that helps.
Doesn't give you the answer because of the way it went down. Obviously, yeah, you're right on that one, because that would have been a tricky one to kind of go through on the VAR.
But I don't want the ref to spend 2 minutes explaining exactly why, in the laws of, Section 14B, I have to send him off because I'll maybe have that information available after the match. But at the time, you just want people to get on with it, because that's the worst thing about VAR, I think, is that even if they get the right decision, if it's
automated offsides in the World Cup and in the Euros were absolutely perfect. Why haven't we got them? Why are we still drawing the lines on when the Premier League said, "Yeah, we'll adopt this technology," and it's March, and it's still not there.
Yeah. Right. I've got to say though, we've got 4 unbeaten. We've just been relegation rivals, and I love the draw away. Maybe we should move off being negative about referees, but it just
let's move on to the next one, shall we?
Next week we've got an international break, so we're going to need to fill some time there. So, we can talk about it.
Oh, we'll go down that rabbit hole then, next week.
So a few comments about various players playing out of position, especially the wingers. I mean, it's just kind of typical that we spend all this money in January to bring in these players, and yet it's March and we've got striker Mason Burstow on one wing and striker Carl Joseph on the other. Typical. It's always the wingers getting injured as well. Cynic, he's always 2 weeks away. He's probably 2 weeks away right now. I think I like Mason
Cynic's
Burstow.
Never been 2 weeks away. Cynic's always been 2 years away.
Yeah, pretty much.
He will forever be 2 years away.
I think Burstow has more ability than Joseph, and I think Joseph's first touch has a lot to improve on. I think they're both doing pretty much as well as you can expect young players that aren't even incredible strikers. They're doing a job on the wing, but I think maybe the next match, of course, Pedro's still out. I'd like to maybe see, just try Burstow in the middle, maybe Gelhardt in the 10, Lincoln out wide, because I think Kamara's improved quite a lot. Mind you, Palmer might be playing as well. But what do we think about
Palmer? Just quickly,
Cole Palmer? He's great. I love him.
He has had coming off the bench in those 2 games. That ball through to Gelhardt, he shouldn't have had. He had no right to get that pass. To Joe Gelhardt. He should have just had a shot, but he took a risk. Gelhardt got stuck in, and we got a bit of luck, maybe. But sometimes you have to make your own luck, which Gelhardt did in that case. Great finish. And then the subs against West Brom, they change the game. From a corner when we recycled possession, Coyle's fantastic ball over, Palmer heads down, Kamara turns in. 2 subs combining. Goal for Kamara, assist for Palmer. Superb. And I expected him to start after he after he came on against Oxford, to be honest, and looked good. And Bairstow against Oxford as well. Like, you look at his last sub performance. When did he come on? Was it against Norwich? Where, Nathaniel, you...
Oh, he was awful.
Me and Will were on here just saying he was absolute dross. He can do that one week, but then another sub appearance, like you look at Borough, and he'll just decide to be like, I don't know, Phil Foden or some other unbelievably technical player. And some of the touches he was doing against Oxford and his work in tight spaces was phenomenal. Playing out of position as well, which he's never, ever played in before. And he's never actually played in his natural position for us, I was meant to say. Yeah, great. But it's consistency, and the fact he's a young player. I think next season we will see him get a loan move to a League One club.
You could be right. You could be, bang on. Especially with the people who are going to be hopefully coming back from injury. I mean, obviously, we don't know how soon that's going to be after the summer when they're coming back because, they've had a season out. So there's going to be a lot of work for a lot of people to come back in, but it does push them down the pecking order in that respect. I mean, I want to ask this question first of all before I bring up all the points because Harry's mentioned it, Cox has brought it all up. So I want to kind of go down this route. Do you feel the lineup against West Brom, especially in the top the top four, the 10, the wingers, the striker, do you believe that was the right way, the right call? Do you feel that was the right lot to start the game with, or would you have done something different?
Well, Sellés as a manager, but what I'd say is that the first half we were pretty much non-existent, so I guess it didn't turn out so well. Yeah, the subs didn't change it. Second half, much better.
This is the thing, you brought in the subs, and I don't know if it was set up that way to accommodate Joe Gelhardt in that number 10 role, really, because as Harry brought up earlier, Lincoln Kamara on the wings would have been probably my choice to start with. And actually, if you were struggling with that kind of up top situation, I mean, even if you wanted to play like Crooks, I wouldn't have put him up top. I would have had him as the number 10 and probably put Joe Gelhardt up there. Or even if Lincoln fitness was an issue, then I would have actually put Joe Gelhardt again out on kind of the wing side. Yes, I agree he's better in the number 10. But again, we've already stated he can play anywhere really in that kind of top position and even out wide and still be competent enough to not worry about it as much. And that was kind of my problem with how fast the tree want to plant his roots and not move anymore because he was knackered. Well, at the end of the first half anyway, he was completely done. And I was surprised that he
always looks knackered, doesn't he?
He does. And I get it. He's a big guy, a lot of running, and you can't really do what Pedro does, kind of the up there running and chasing about and causing a nuisance of yourself in that situation. But we don't have that. And with Joseph, especially when I watched him against Oxford, I was not impressed on the wing situation at all.
It was better against Plymouth, definitely.
Yeah, he was better against Plymouth. But then again, is that just because of who he was playing against when it came down to Plymouth? I think I only saw one kind of point within the in the game against West Brom where we did kind of a through ball, kind of splitting the full back and the centre back where he could run onto it. And I only saw that occasion once, and the rest of it was him obviously running at the full back. And he wasn't using his pace. He was just kind of trying to go a little bit in and around and just whack it first time. And 99% of the time, it bounced off the defender and it either went out or we lost possession of the ball again. And it just didn't seem right. And that's the thing where it comes with Bairstow and Joseph. I want to give Joseph a chance. I actually do see a player there. I think he's got the pace. I think he's a good battler. He is, but I don't see him being the person who will battle on the wing. You need him to battle up top in that box to kind of use his bit of a framework with him and have someone pacey next to him, maybe like Bairstow, where he could have played there. I just felt that a lot of the players we've got were not utilising their attributes as much in the correct positions. And it's kind of, look, they've played there once already.
The sense, though, is by necessity, is it not? Because
but there's other options currently. Like you said, we've got Lincoln, got Joe Gelhardt. You know, you could have easily put Bairstow and Joseph in the middle where the best positions are. You could have had Bairstow up top, Joseph, that kind of number 10 where you're asking him to just do the runs and chop and change between each other. You would still have Joe Gelhardt cutting inside, doing a bit of kind of work around there. You'd have Kamara on the right-hand side. You know, even if you played, say, Crooksy and didn't have Bairstow starting, at least you would have had Crooksy in that number 10 and kind of dropping off and still have Bairstow or even Joseph up top. I just feel at the moment we might be starting too defensively up top to kind of gauge how the game goes, and then we're going to bring on the better kind of players because, as we said,
I don't think defensively is necessarily the right word, but
controlling. The controlling pace.
Like I don't think you can say 3 strikers across your forward lines.
No,
defensive per se. But I understand what you're trying to say because you know you're putting 2 young strikers out on the wings who aren't wingers, and it's not like it's not a tried and tested recipe for success. Whereas Kamara, although young, is actually a winger. And Lincoln, although unproven at this level, is actually a winger.
Yes,
is in theory a safer bet than putting Joseph on the left and Bairstow on the right, or then they swapped halfway through the first half, whatever. But Harry's just put the point in chat there for 2.5 million for Joseph. You'd expect him to be able to play in his natural position when Zhao's out. I don't think it's necessarily saying it's not trusting him. I think it's a case of he put Joe Gelhardt through the middle just against Oxford to swap Crooks and Gelhardt. It stuck and it worked. But even when Joseph's been through the middle, again, I think his work ethic is great, and I think he's a great lad. And I think
I know a winger. I know that a winger we sold in January that had a great work ethic. That was actually a winger and could have played in that position.
So do I.
He went under 16 for us by any chance?
Yes.
Has he gone to Wrexham by any chance?
He may well have done. I mean, of course, we weren't to know everyone else was going to get suspended and injured, but you know.
But look, back to what I was saying about Kyle Joseph. Even when he's playing up front, he doesn't. I know he's played there against some very, top teams in this division, Sheffield and Sunderland mainly.
Yeah, he had a great game as well.
But he's had good games in those. But has he really looked like ever scoring for us in whatever game, in whatever position he's played? And that,
he's
to me,
2.3 xG. So based on the stats, if you're into that sort of thing, you'd expect him to. But they've not been huge chances. I think he had a few cutbacks against Plymouth. But yeah, well, that's a good question from Coxey. Let's all, make a stand here. Will Joseph score before the end of the season?
I think he will.
Ooh,
I think
hope so.
Joe, you hope so? Yes or no, though?
Yeah, go on.
I'm going to say 5 assists, but no goals. So, still be positive.
No, I think he's going to get one of those. I just think it's going to be one of those goals that come out of nowhere. It'll just be something where you wouldn't expect
back pass, maybe.
Short back pass. Even to be honest, if we look at say West Brom where they did that bad pass and kind of knocked it down. If he, because he won that ball, didn't he? In the end, was it him who won that ball? And all he had to do was kind of sprint a bit, take a pop, but he kind of slowed the game down a bit, tried to take the defender on, tried to bring everybody in, and I was kind of like, well, you've messed it up there. He can do a great Scooby-Doo impression.
I don't. What's that?
Have you not seen Nathaniel?
Have you not seen his Scooby-Doo impression that he does?
No.
Yeah, it's all. Yeah, have a look at the City thing.
Scroll back through Twitter a little bit. The club did a head-to-head thing with him and Gelhardt.
Oh, okay. One, not on the pitch, right?
No.
Extra content. Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah.
I was watching Scooby-Doo last night. I watched 2 full Scooby-Doo films. So, yeah, I must watch that then.
But overall, the game. I mean, look, the game. Let's be honest.
Yeah, back to the focus of what the podcast is actually about.
Yeah, let's go back,
into
guys.
it. Definitely grew into it.
That second half. Look, the changes. Palmer again. He deserved to start, hasn't he, Palmer?
I think maybe it's just he's back from injury, but I think 2 weeks off, proper time to sort of recuperate and get some training into him. Of course, he'll be back
He's on
from
international duty.
If he wasn't, then I think you could definitely say against Luton he'd be starting, deservedly so. I mean, it's interesting. Pedro, of course, he'll be back in 2 games' time. It'd be interesting to know what our sort of preferred front 4 is. I think the back 7 is, if my maths is correct, I think it is pretty much locked in at this point.
You think? Is 7 including the goalkeeper? Sorry.
Yeah, 7 including the goalkeeper.
7 including the goalkeeper. Yeah.
And then I think Palmer, Crooks, or Gelhardt could play number 10. Pedro is going to be playing up front. Kamara, I think, will be on the right. So do you put? I guess the thing is, though, you don't necessarily have to have a set front 4 because, as we saw with his sister in the score against West Brom, you don't necessarily need to start them for them to get the goals. So I guess that's a positive. Crucial point, I think, to equalise later on. I thought, again, like Oxford, we conceded pretty much the same amount of time. Nice scrappy goal, another one from a set piece, improving on that.
Love it.
Do you think
like you say, Nathaniel, it's such a huge point in the context of the season because every single other result was unfavourable for us, bar Portsmouth. So the fact we still managed to get a point out of it against a team in the playoffs, it's such a good point. And yes,
of course,
because we
a draw for West Brom is...
we're still in that fight and we can't break away, even though we're playing well and we're in good form. We've got big results against Sheffield United, Sunderland, a point against Leeds. But you've got to think we're not far away from pulling away from it. We beat Luton and we're there. We get a result against Derby in April. That could be the one that decides it. Because, we've got Coventry at home. Swansea away is a game where we could get something out of. Preston could even
Sheffield Wednesday, second worst home record, and we're pretty good away, so that could be a win, possibly.
I mean, Preston could even get dragged into the relegation scrap. They're only on, 47 points, which will be enough to keep them up, absolutely, for sure. But it's another team in the dogfight, which is beneficial for us, I think. And, look, I think we will stay up. I've maintained that position for a while. I said after we lost to Cardiff, it was going to be tough and it'd go down to the wire or as close to the wire as you could get. And I do still believe that because every other team has picked up at the same time as we have. But we just need to sustain it more. Since Ruben took over, if the season started then, we'd be 10th in the league-ish. So under Ruben, this position doesn't represent where we are as a team, but we're paying the price for what came before. And I think Ruben salvaged and will salvage what was left of the season when he took over. Yeah. And then we can build, but we'll talk about the building once he's done the salvaging bit and safety is secure.
Yeah, no, I agree on that one. Yeah. And I mean, Coxie brought it up, but I was going to bring it up anyway. Do you think we were good for the 3 points if, that kind of Kamara kind of scrap? Do you think we would have deserved the 3 points, or do you actually believe the draw was...
Well, at that period of the game, maybe you could say, City are on top here. But I think given how non-existent we'd been for the first hour or so of the match, and I think West Brom had a few chances, I'd say overall a draw, given how dominant we created a few chances at the end. That's I think a draw is fairly reasonable.
Yeah, I mean,
agreed.
From from a, I don't want to say neutral perspective because, guys, we all know I'm not. But if I was watching it from the outside in,
taking a step
back, look, if I was watching that, I would have been if I was watching that and West Brom lost, I would have actually felt sorry for West Brom there because they did enough. They did enough to actually get the draw. So let's not take
like a City home game, wouldn't it?
It's thank you. There you go, Nathan. You've got me down there already. Brilliant. So, but it was look. West Brom are no pushovers. So for us to come away with a point and actually be upset that we didn't get 3 is definite testament to where Ruben Sellés has brought us to after the manager of "Thou shall not be named by me" because I'll just don't that.
The German.
The German, yeah. That's the thing about that game where I was really happy on how we came back into the game and actually, I don't even say scrapped a point out because even though it was a scrappy goal, we were in that kind of from conceding, we were just all on top. And for once, actually not for once, it's been two or three games in a row. I'd like to say that right hand side with Kamara and Coyle has once again, I don't want to moan about it. And with the form that they've been in throughout this season, as we've said previous in this show, the mentality is completely changed of us on how we are playing. And it's nice to see that certain players are coming back into form. Now, I do obviously hope Regan kind of sorts it out because I think it was the Oxford game when he needs to just kind of get that confidence back within himself because it was the Oxford game where he came on as the sub and he received I think it was his first touch and he received the pass. And his first thing he did was pass it backwards and everyone bemoaned him. I understand why they bemoaned him because there was 3 obvious forward passes he could have gone to. So let's see if Regan's kind of form does change again. I really, truly hope it does because he needs to. And especially how we did start the season with God knows how many chances. I mean, it's stupid amount. I mean, how many times did he hit the post at the beginning of the season? Like 6,
quite a lot.
7?
I mean, it's been a while though, really. So I think it's probably out of the firing line. Maybe he'll think, he'll score his next chance. It's been a while. Maybe at Sheffield Wednesday, that'd be nice for him. I'm sure he's happy with the result in the derby today. Yeah.
That's the thing. So a lot of us are looking forward to obviously this break. Well, I say we're looking forward. I'm not looking forward to missing out on football. But I think we are looking forward to the point of, look, everyone's going to have a bit of a gap before we go into this end of period. I mean, the games are definitely thick and fast, especially with the Coventry game now being moved to the best day in the world, 14th of April. The next game straight after is Swansea away 4 days later. So it's not, and it's not giving us much of a gap. So from now, and to be fair, on the 18th after Swansea, it's Preston at home on the 21st.
It's the last push, isn't it? They need to rest for 2 weeks, except Parma, who can't.
Yeah.
Oh, well, typical.
I mean, I am in a sense looking forward to the international break because we've got a great Tigers Talk episode lined up next week. And that's not this episode coming this Wednesday. That's the one after that. And you'll find out more about that on...
Do I even know about this?
I don't know, but me, AD, and Christian have definitely discussed it. I'll tell you after.
Good.
It's a good one, Nathaniel, trust me. But you guys will find out what that is on Wednesday for next Wednesday. But no, like, to get... Now I've got that sort of little promo out the way. No, I think we do, in a sense, need it because we've had such a long run since November and it gives Ruben a bit more time before we get into... what, like you say, the last push. Luton, Sheffield Wednesday, Watford, Cov, Swansea, Preston, Derby, and Pompey.
Yeah. Shall we play how many points are we going to get from the last 8 games?
Oh!
This little game I came up with. Okay.
No, not when you ask that question.
I think Liam has commented up here somewhere, is Luton a must-win? I mean, again,
Yes.
it's not.
Yes.
It is a
All
must-win
games
because
are a
it's a
must-win.
relegation rival. Equally, of course, if you lose and you win the next 7, then it's, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, that is another one. And if you've won 3 in a row at home, unbeaten, and 4 at home, you finally do say, yes, the home form is solid. And given, I think, Sheffield Wednesday either have an away match, I think they do next. If we beat Luton, it will actually not. If Sheffield Wednesday lose, I think they're at Leeds or something like that, we might actually not have the worst home record in the whole league again, which that'd be lovely to finally go 23rd in the home table. But Luton, do we think we could get the 3 points there? I think maybe we need 9 points to get to the sort of magic point 50. We might not need as much as that, but that sort of really guarantees it. I think you could win one of the Sheffield Wednesday or the Watford games because they're not the best. As I've mentioned, Sheffield Wednesday at home aren't great. And then I think Swansea and Preston, of course, you've got Derby as well. They might be down by that point. I think you look at Luton, Wednesday, Swansea and Preston as the major games to win there. Derby had a slight uptick in form, but Preston, third to last game, that's one I'm sure we'll definitely win, fingers crossed, because Preston never have anything to play for. They finish 13th every season. So, yeah.
I think. Go on, Joe. Sorry, Joe. Go on. No.
I've just written down here. I've got 12.
12, yeah.
What's
your 12?
Beat Luton, draw with Sheffield Wednesday, lose to Watford and Coventry, then beat Swansea, draw with Preston, beat Derby, and draw with Pompey.
Yeah.
And I think what's more important than the points total is who the points come against. Luton,
yes, because if you lose to Luton and Derby,
then it's
you're
over.
cooked. Yeah.
If you lose both those games, then you've got an absolute mountain. You've got Everest to climb, really. Unless
we'd
you
still
then
be.
go,
If we, it's not exactly Everest because we wouldn't be in the relegation zone if you lose the next match, for example. We'd still be up. But it's not. It doesn't help you. Does it?
If you were to lose both Luton and Derby, you'd want to have won just about every other game, just to make sure. So
surely we'll scrape 3 wins from 8. I think 9 is all we wouldn't need. I think we can do it.
My concern is the Derby game, to be honest, because if things don't go to plan, for instance, and we are kind of in that. Let's say Derby are guaranteed to go down by that. Derby aren't going to come at us with the kitchen sink. They're just going to have that kind of relaxed mentality. And when you play teams like that, they're generally the ones that cause you the biggest banana skins when you need it the most, and they're the ones who aren't. And that's a big game for me, is the Derby one, because they've got it in them. They've just proven they've still got it in them at the moment.
Definitely.
And if they are the ones that are, relegated by that point, because you would expect them to be relegated by that point, unless everything is literally the last game of the season. I'm just afraid of that banana skin. We should get the 3 points. We should. But it's the mentalities when you get to the end of the season against those type of teams that are already pre-relegated. And every point for us at the moment is huge. I mean, Luton, we should. We definitely should. Sheffield Wednesday, as we've stated, minimum a point. Minimum point is kind of the only thing I would accept there, I guess. Watford, I understand. Coventry, unfortunately, it's going to be a very tricky one. Swansea, we'd all right at the Welsh clubs.
We could get a win there.
We could get a win there.
They've not been great.
Preston, to be honest, when we played them, I'm surprised we didn't get the 3 points when we played them earlier on in the season.
It was just a terrible game, though, wasn't
it? It was a terrible game in overall, and we've got enough to beat Preston. We've definitely got enough, and I think I'll be gutted by them that our survival. I might understand if our survival depends on the Preston game.
Point, they'll be on the beach. I mean, they've been on the beach since about October.
And that's the thing. And then obviously, if it's not settled by then, Derby County is, like I said, the banana skin in my head. I just hope it doesn't come down to the last game or the last 2 games. I want it done and dusted.
It could
guess by Preston.
It could do.
Don't say it, I just don't want it. I don't want it.
It's going to be an exciting end of the season, but I think we've got enough in the tank. We've just got 8 points from 4 games. I reckon we can get 9 from 8 games, and I think 50 points. And the most important thing about beating Luton, if we did, isn't necessarily just getting away from the bottom 3, but it's also that there are teams dragged into it now. With how many points Derby have, I think it's 38, we're on 41. But if we win, we could be joint with, I think, even not 17th, maybe 16th, maybe 17th, because Swansea are only a few points, 3 points above us. So there's enough teams in there that you think, well, even if we don't get a huge amount of points till the end of the season, we might be saved by the fact that we're not for the bottom. We're in a huge list of other teams. So I think, with Pedro coming back as well, we've got Palmer, Gelhardt, the defence has been very solid. We've got enough in the tank to I think, win 3 games. And then we'll be home and host. Fingers crossed. It's going to be very difficult. I am looking forward to this international break. It's been too long without one, to be honest, especially with all the injuries, and it's been a miserable year. I'd completely forgotten Tuchel was the England manager. I saw that. I was like, oh yeah, that happened. That happened a while ago. So actually, it'd be nice to focus on some different level of football. Luke Holmes comes in. We can. Oh, go on. Yeah.
Shall we dissect the England squad next week to give us some context?
Oh, thank God. Well,
yes.
Firstly, yes, but secondly, I have never given a damn about any England squad announcement ever, because whoever the manager is going to pick the sort of the best players. They're going to pick Saka if he's fit, Rice if he's fit, Kane, Bennett, blah blah blah, and the rest of them, so long as they're English, and they can qualify. I never care.
Getting qualified for this World Cup's a doddle anyway, because every single bloody country's in it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I understand the idea, and we will get into this next week, of building that camaraderie. Equally, like when we lost that friendly against Iceland, that wasn't the reason we didn't win the Euros. The reason we didn't win the Euros was because of how we played in the final. It never really matters that much. It's literally just game by game. Because they've got 6 training or 6 camps before the World Cup if they qualify, when they qualify. So it's not even that much time to build that camaraderie. So, but we'll talk about that next week. Any closing comments?
Morgan Gibbs-White's just been put in the England squad.
Oh, who for?
For nobody, he's just been called up.
What do you mean?
He's just been added to the squad.
Are you allowed to do that? How many?
I have no idea, but we've done it.
Oh. I don't know why he's taking 4 goalkeepers anyway. Was that a mistake? Gibbs-White's a good player.
The official FA statement reads, Morgan Gibbs-White has been added to the England squad. The Nottingham Forest midfielder will now report to St George's Park alongside the rest of the squad ahead of yada, yada, yada. Gibbs-White, a Euro 2023 UEFA Under-21 Euro winner, made his senior debut last September and has 2 caps to his name to date.
Okay. Cool.
And on that bombshell, it's time to end.
Yes. Up the Tigers, and we'll be back next week. Thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye.